everyone, and welcome to Chlorine Callaloo. This is our Chlorine News Flash, and I'm Liam Carrington of Petrotrin Barracuda Swim Club. We are streaming live on Facebook and YouTube pages of Trinidad Freestyles and the Facebook pages of Mauvais Lang, Sydney and Boisson, and Center of Excellence Swimming Pool Complex. Remember to follow us and like the pages and share the live. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel by searching Trinidad Freestyle. In the headlines, Carter wins 50-meter fly at ISL. FINA launches scholarship programs, and Coach Asia is back from CPL. And now, our chlorine news flash. Dylan Carter continued his International Swimming League ISL campaign in Naples, Italy, with a gold medal finish in the 50-meter butterfly. Representing the London Raw franchise, Carter stopped the clock in 22 seconds and 4.40 seconds. He also again helped his team to a gold medal finish in the 4x100 freestyle relay. Carter's 45.91 second split was the fastest among all his competitors. Carter also placed sixth in the 50-meter backstroke in 23.81 seconds. He also participated in the 50-meter butterfly skins, where he reached up to the second round. At the end of match 8 last weekend, Carter's London Raw placed second in team scores behind Energy Standard. LA Current placed third with Tokyo Frog Kings in fourth. What is that name? He is expecting to participate on the 9th on March 9 on Thursday and Friday of this week. London Raw will challenge Energy Standard, Toronto Titans, and DC Trident. Best wishes and congrats to Dylan. The Amateur Swimming Association of Trinidad and Tobago has issued an invite to its members to apply for FINA scholarship program. The deadline for the submissions to the FINA is September 25th. The FINA Scholarship Program awards a deserving athlete aged 23 and younger to either get financial support in 2022 or gain experience to train at one of FINA's training centers around the world. Please follow up with the ASATT member clubs for further information. Coach, can I apply? In the Chlorine Callaloo news, this episode 19 of season 2 of Visual Eyes Chlorine Champion, Mia Otero, who is the member of Trinidad and Tobago's senior women's hockey team, is also a former national swimmer in both the pool and open water. Coach Asia is back, and she brings coaches connection to the first all-female medical team in the Caribbean Premier League, CPL. Asia Joseph was the strength and conditioning coach for the Syndicates and Nevis Patriots. Physiotherapist Asha, DeFreitas, and massage therapist Lyeesel Sealey round up a powerful trio that ensures the wellness of the victorious 2021 Syndicates and Nevis franchise. In our Lifebuoy segment, we chat with Kervin Jean on how a robust policy, regulatory framework, and aids aquatic sport development. Mr. Jean worked as an Administrative Officer of ASATT from 2010 to 2012 to head of the UWI Open Campus Academy of Sport. Thank you for tuning in to Chlorine Callaloo, and remember to like and share this live. Also, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel of Trinidad Freestyles. Stay tuned. Up next, we have our Visual Eyes Chlorine Champions. I'm Liam Carrington of Petrotrin Barracudas, and this was your Chlorine News Flash. Have a good evening.
Good evening, and welcome to Chlorine Callaloo. This is your almost a chlorine news splash. We had a real reporter right before me. He looked like he was on one of those TV stations before. Congrats, Liam, on that excellent reading on the news. And thank you all for tuning into Chlorine Champion, sponsored by Visual Eyes. And this evening, our Chlorine Champion is Mia Otero. She is a former national swimmer, and she'll be representing Trinidad and Tobago in hockey on the senior women's team. Is Peru you're going off to?
Yes, it is.
And that's for the Pan American Cup?
Yes.
All right, welcome to Chlorine Champions, Mia.
Thank you. Happy
How
to
have
be
you been?
here.
How have you been?
I'm good. It's been a long day. So just happy to be home right now.
So you're a former national swimmer, now a hockey player. So let's get a little bit about the swimming part of it. So tell me, when did you learn to swim, and why did your parents think it was important to get you all involved in swimming? And for some reason, two of you didn't have a choice.
Well, yeah, basically. So I started swimming when I was like 4. And I really think we honestly just got into it due to just being a life skill that I think my parents thought we should know and learn. And then, well, it just went on from there. We never stopped after we learned how to swim. And it just became a thing. And we started competitive swimming. And we went from there.
Okay. So do you remember that first national swim team?
I don't remember a lot, but I did make my first national swim team in 2013. We went to Jamaica. I believe I made it for 200 backstroke, if my memory serves me correct.
Right.
And it was a good experience from what I remember. I was with a lot of other senior swimmers, so they kind of had to guide me along the way while we were there.
Right.
But overall, I think it was a great experience.
And so, I mean, you made national teams. I believe you made it for both in the pool and open water.
Yes, I did.
Right.
Yes.
So, how you move from swimming to not swimming? Why did you stop?
I stopped swimming in 2017, and I believe, honestly, the love for the sport kind of died for me.
Right.
I didn't feel like it was there. I just felt like it was more like a chore at the end of the day that I had to go and do because I've been doing it for so long.
Right.
And well, at that point, Mom asked if we wanted to stop. We said, well, yeah, let's try something new. And at that point, we just kind of said, yeah, well, we finished with the swimming.
So is it after that stop you decided to go straight into hockey, or you started to look for a next sport, or how did it work out?
So, I mean, it was a train of thought before to stop swimming. And I always said, if I ever stop swimming, I have to get into another sport. So it was hockey, and I don't think I had any other sport in mind. I just said hockey because I had some friends in the sport, so I felt like it would have been an easier transition, which it was. So that's how I ended up in the hockey.
So let me ask you, how did the experience in swimming help you in hockey?
For sure, the discipline that I had to have in swimming, I carried it across into hockey in terms of being disciplined with training, being consistent with training, having that mindset to basically never give up. Because when I first started hockey, it was really hard. I felt like a loser because I wasn't the best still, you know. And it was a hard transition because you're coming from being in a sport that I grew up in to a completely new one. With people who grew up in that sport. So it was hard, but I liked the challenge. So I stuck with it.
All right, so just going to ask you some quick questions here for you to give me some quick answers. I know I didn't tell you about this before, but you should have been watching this show in the past.
Oh no.
All right, nothing hard. So open water or pool?
Pool.
What's your favorite position to play in hockey?
I play in the forward line. I like that position.
All right. Favorite swim race?
200 backstroke.
What was your favorite national team trip?
I'd have to say 2016 when I went Martinique for the open water.
All right. And hockey or swimming?
Ooh.
And you're going on a national team tomorrow, so you should say the right answer.
I think it's hockey.
So if you're now tuning in, this is Mia Otero, former national swimmer. She is going up tomorrow, actually, with the senior ladies hockey team to the Pan American Cup in Peru. And we have her here on Visual Eyes Chlorine Champion, right here on Chlorine Callaloo. And so we want to talk a little bit more. So how has it been for you navigating both your sport and the pandemic?
Well, it's been hard because due to the pandemic, a lot of sports have been shut down. We weren't able to train. So we had months without training. And that was hard mentally, physically too, because you just kind of relax and, well, you're not too sure what the next step would have been due to the pandemic. So honestly, it was just a go with the flow kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. But did you learn anything about yourself during this time?
I can't say that I have, honestly.
But is it that the resilience of sports? I mean, it helped you to navigate this time because some people may have gotten depressed or decided to quit.
Well, yeah, definitely the keep pushing forward and the discipline from both swimming and hockey would have helped me to kind of just stay focused on whatever I would have been doing in the pandemic when we had lockdown or whatever the case may have been. So yes, I would say that sport did help me stay focused through the pandemic.
You think, now you say your love for swimming kind of die away. You think you'll ever come back to swimming?
Not competitively. Not competitively.
Have you swum since? As in recreationally and leisure time?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
And of course, that right now brings you more joy, I guess, than competitive swimming.
Yes, it does. It's a lot more relaxing than the competitive swimming. So,
do you? What age you started competitive swimming?
7 and 8 and under. So as soon as I turned 7, I think we were thrown into swim meets.
In retrospect, do you think as the 7-year-old should be in swim meet? This is nothing on your parents or anything, just a general question.
As a fun kind of thing, yeah. Just to kind of show them what they're really gonna get themselves into, I guess, even though they wouldn't understand at that age. But I think it's just a fun experience to gain new friends and see that you have friends in the sport, and it's like a bonding experience for them as well.
Did you teach swimming as well?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I would figure so. I figure you had no choice in that too.
Not really.
How was that experience like teaching persons to swim as opposed to being a swimmer yourself? I know. Did you do competitive or more learn to swim?
More learn to swim. More right. So a lot of younger kids.
You like it?
Yeah, it's fun.
Right. You're saying that because it's true or mommy watching?
Nah, I'm saying that. No, it is fun. Once the kids are well behaved.
Sometimes you have a,
Yeah. But no, it is fun. You learn a lot. I learned a lot teaching swimming. I think I gained a lot of patience as well, because you're dealing with 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds who attention span is like that small. So I think a big thing for me was learning how to be patient with people and kids. And
so as you go off to the Pan Am tomorrow, what are you hoping to personally achieve?
Personally, honestly, I just I really haven't set out a lot of goals, but I just want to go out there and work hard and try my best. And once I have given 100%, I think I'll be okay with that.
You have been, I know you dabble in triathlon a little bit. Triathlon you did? Duathlon?
I think it was a duathlon, but I think I only did like once.
So that'll count. All right, that'll count.
I didn't dive into it. Like I didn't really want to actually. I wasn't into the running, so.
But you're into the hockey now.
Yes, yes.
So if we, this month is normally Maracas open water. If they open the beaches
Oh,
next
yes.
week, you're going to that? Well, it'll
Yeah.
be.
Well, I'll be in Peru, but if I wasn't going Peru, yes, for sure.
You going to swim or going to Lime?
Lime.
At least you're honest. So let me just round this off a little bit. Would you advise parents to involve their children in sports?
Definitely, 100% yes. It teaches you a lot. It teaches you discipline. It teaches you how to manage your time, especially when you get older and you have to juggle school, lessons, swimming, or whatever sport that you might be in. And it keeps them fit overall, and keeps them healthy. So I would definitely recommend that people involve the kids in sport.
And how important was it for you? How important was it for you to have your family involved in your progression as an athlete?
It's definitely important. My mom and my dad were behind us 100% all the time. They made way. I don't know. Sometimes I didn't even know how they used to do it, but they made sure that we had all that we needed, especially when we had to go swim meets, teams, and all of that. So the support system I had was just very important, and it helped me a lot through my process when I was swimming.
So this is
no.
what?
I know, I said I know with hockey as well.
So we're just winding up this interview here with Mia Otero on Visual Eyes Chlorine Champions. So Mia, the floor is yours. Any final words of encouragement to Trinidad and Tobago? The athletes.
Stay focused. Try and keep your head up. I know the pandemic has been very difficult for a lot of us. So just keep making small goals and keep working towards them.
But you're talking about not swimming again possibly in the future, but I see you're wearing a Trinity Masters jersey, so we're still looking for a little thing in the future probably. You can't be wearing the jersey.
I had to pull out something.
Yeah. Well, thanks for pulling out a swimming jersey and not a hockey jersey, but all the best in all your future endeavors, all the best in the Pan Am Cup. And
thank you very much.
And please keep safe when you go across there.
Same to you as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mia.
No problem.
So this was Mia Otero of the national hockey team. She was a national swimmer, and this was Visual Eyes Chlorine Champions. And we're getting ready for our next segment, which is Coaches Connection. Good evening and welcome. This is Coaches Connection, and I deliberately wearing my TKR jersey this evening. I had to show them a little bit. Yeah, they're laughing in the background. That's all right. I prepared for the pong, but that's all right. So coming up next, we have three ladies. One is missing though. Three ladies from TKR's all. Give me TKR, Lush. I'll go get.
Yeah, boy.
From St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots.
Thank you. Oh,
where's Lyeesel? Where's Lee? You all can find Lee? Control all this up now. Come on. A little bit here. Where's Lyeesel?
Asia? Yeah, I know message on. Okay.
So this is Coaches Connection, a special Coaches Connection. Asha Joseph is back.
Yes, I'm back finally.
You know, the good thing about this job here is leave with pay and leave without pay. It don't make a difference. You always have a space here for Asia. Welcome back. Let me see. As Lyeesel popped on a little while ago, but I don't know where she went. But We'll start anyway. She'll pop back in. So this is
she'll pop
Coach's
back in just
Connection. We have our all-female medical team from the St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots. We have Asha Joseph, who was the strength and conditioning coach. We had Asha DeFreitas, the physio, and Lyeesel. I say it right, Lyeesel?
You're correct. Hi, everybody.
Lyeesel, actually, earlier, ladies, Lyeesel told me she wanted to make a grand entrance, so that's why.
I believe that.
I was not going to say as per usual.
So welcome, ladies. Welcome to Chlorine Callaloo. Welcome to Coach's Connection. How have you all been?
All good, man.
Good.
Real good. You want me to get my gold medal to show you? Hold on.
This is not one of them. I don't know what live.
With your TKR jersey now.
What?
Yes,
I don't know what live
that's
was
ours.
being on previously, but this is not that kind of show.
Hey.
Asha DeFreitas, let me start with you, because the first thing I understand about you is that you are born in the best month of the year.
Well, yeah.
Well, I want to start with how this was which edition of the CPL for you?
Say again, it was my what?
Which edition of the CPL for you? I know you have done a few already.
Yeah. So I did 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19, and then so 7.
7. So you're the veteran of the group. Were you with TKR?
I was.
Wow.
And then I moved to the US in 2018, and I couldn't leave the country because my paperwork was being processed, and that's how I ended up missing that year. And then I had to give up the position because TKR was, at least this was before COVID, was trying to start an academy, and it just made sense to have a local therapist who could work the academy and the franchise. So.
And Lyeesel, this is your second.
Yes, it is.
How was the CPL experience for you?
It was a big transformation for me. Jumping from the bottom of the table last year to the top of the table this year, and then as champions. It was different for me. Then having the ladies, a full lady squad. It was also it was also a different vibe for me. They made my job so much easier. Because we all, from day one, we sat and we spoke about how we going about dealing with the guys, how we going about working together as a team, and we executed, and you see what the end result was.
Lyeesel, we talked a little earlier, and I sent off a message, and I haven't gotten a response yet, because Donna was on St. Kitts, and she was 6 last year, so, but I'm not going there, because I done in trouble already.
Donna, I just wanted to know that has nothing to do with me. That was all.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with this. It's all me, and she knows it's all me. It's all right.
And I think she watching this show too.
Yeah.
I just want to put out there.
My doors are locked, don't worry. Asha, so Asha, I know you are the most conflicted of the three, right? Because in 20s, we in 2021, right? So 2020, she was a Barbados Trident fan of the match. I'm saying that.
Right.
In 2019, she was dancing in a TKR jersey. And 2021, St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots. Asha, where does your loyalty lie?
Listen, it's COVID times, and whoever pays the bills. I mean, come on. I'm not going into my heart, so my heart is always with TKR. You all know that, right? But it just so happened that I got finally match, which was $500. So I hold, Barbados close to my heart. But then this year it had more money involved, so I'm now a Kittian. I'm a Kittian now.
Now, but one thing though I was talking to somebody earlier, one thing about the CPL, and I'm just watching from on TV. CPL seems like, yes, it's a competition, but it's more than a competition. It seems like there's a different vibe that you see it's on the team with the fellas where, it have a friendly rivalry going on, and it's all about a whole Caribbean, really the biggest party in sport, a whole Caribbean feeling. Is that the truth, or is that? Or you have another opinion?
Well, I mean, it's my first experience, so I will say from my perspective, I think yes, it is. I mean, you have it's not like country versus country because you have people from Trinidad playing on other teams and vice versa. So it's definitely a friendly rival because a lot of the guys, they know each other. And sometimes in competition, that can be a problem because yes, it's rivalry, but it can be friendly rivalry. And when that happens, like people don't focus on winning. You know, yes, I think they just want to, again, friendly rivalry. But yes, definitely from what I saw on and off the field, it was definitely, the biggest party.
Listen, are you a competition as well now too?
Don't lie, eh?
Competition to my heart.
You have the two passports already or just one?
I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
And for some reason, I really believe this, but let me ask you a question. How did it mean for you to be before CPL and after CPL? How did you feel before CPL that you're going to be working with two additional females? And then after the experience, how you felt after as well?
For me in particular, I'm usually iffy when it comes to working with a full woman team. But I tend to just focus on the positivity heading into the tournament. I didn't try to overthink the situation. I didn't try to anticipate it more than knowing that I'm going to be working with women. I think what also made it easier for me was knowing that I was going to be working with Asia. I've known Asia for a little bit, and that made it kind of easier for me in terms of the overthinking. And then meeting Asha, it was just like, according to, I think one of the guys was on the table and we were talking about the chemistry. And he was like, why women like to complicate things so much? You're talking about chemistry and it's only been a week, like. And it was serious. Like,
that was for what?
I think it was for what. Like day one, we just all connected and we did what we had to do.
Same for you, Asha?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was looking forward to having all women because, well, having done different CPLs, I knew this was going to be an eye catcher, right? So I was really excited. I mean, when you have too much estrogen or too much testosterone, there's always that chance that things are not going to go as smoothly. But that was not our case, and it was obvious from the beginning. So in anticipation of the competition, I reached out to both of them, created the group chat so we could just start getting to know each other and stuff a little bit. Asia and Lee knew each other from before, but neither of them knew me from before, and I'm also a little bit older than them, so there was a little bit of room or need, a little bit of time needed to get to know each other and stuff like that. But our personalities just all meshed so well, and I couldn't ask for a better team, and the results show.
Asha, can you tell me a little bit about what is in this dynamic? I know you have plenty hats, but what is your role as a physio in this dynamic?
So my profession is actually called athletic training. Right. It's a terrible name, and I quarrel about it all the time. But it's basically rehab that's structured for the active person. So the active person doesn't want to stay down. They're not afraid of a little discomfort if that's what they need to do in their rehab. And so the rehab style tends to be a little more aggressive. Athletic trainers also need to be more like team players. So talking with like the SNC, talking with the massage therapist is that's just, you have to do it. It's not if and all this. So as an athletic trainer, we basically are responsible for looking over the health and wellness of them. So prior to the start of the CPL, we did screenings, and I roped in Asia to run the functional movement screen. We didn't actually do a true functional movement screen. We kind of tailored it for our own purposes, which worked out really, really well. And that gave her information from an S&C perspective. It gave me information. And it also gave Lee. Lee was there just observing and taking in stuff and being a fantastic support for us. And then like when they have, if it's earaches or fevers, those are also things that we have to kind of respond to, as well as like injuries that may take place on the field or chronic on acute. Cricket is a sport full of like chronic injuries. And, just being able to respond to whatever is needed. Like I say, whether it be a health thing or an injury thing, we like look at the whole thing. And then we also speak with the coaches to give them status updates on the players.
All right, Asha. And Lee, same question. Your role, but before you get to your role as a massage therapist, I just let people know, I'm seeing Donna Marie sending some threats to me in the chat. I know we may not have a police commissioner right now, but that's letting you all know.
I see them too, Jason. I see them.
Yeah, thanks. Testify for me. Lee, what's your role as a massage therapist in this dynamic? Oh, you're muted.
Okay.
Lee? Right, go ahead.
I say, first of all, I just want to say hi, Donna. It was not me again. My role as a massage therapist is basically to help the guys with the recovery, muscle tension, help with flexibility, just helping them recover for the most part. And like Asha rightly said, a lot of the injuries the guys come with is more so chronic injuries. So they come in with hits and niggles that we need to deal with and just get them prepared as much as possible to play. Most instances we aren't able to give them a proper fix based on the duration of the tournament as well, but we just get them ready enough where they can play. Yeah.
And Asia, strength and conditioning coach, you are the abusive one?
I try not to be, but if you ask the guys, they might say out of all, I'm probably the most harsh. Although I heard some stories about people being afraid of Lee, but we won't go there.
Pass this on to Lee now. We're talking about you.
Facts, it's true.
But I mean, my role as a strength and conditioning coach is to help improve the athletic performance and as much as I could reduce the risk of injuries. So improving their performance would be tailoring like a workout program for them, making sure they're strong enough, making sure they're powerful, making sure they're well conditioned to play games. And in this season of CPL, because it was so short, a lot of my job description, I would say, was definitely focused on recovery. Why that one not coming to my head? Recovery. So focus on recovery, making sure the guys recover properly from practice and games and stuff like that. Especially when we had like back-to-back games. I think that was like the biggest thing challenge for us, making sure that the guys were ready for the next day, especially when we had morning games, knowing that that sun was terrible. So that's my job in a nutshell.
To that point, like a lot of times I find Lee's role is played down a lot. And I said the next time I had a forum to talk that I was going to big up more. Lee's role is almost like a cornerstone. She's
Asha, you could go ahead with your response, but in your response, can you also tie in how three of you all work together?
That was exactly what I was going to get to, right? So Lee is like the cornerstone. In this square that I'm seeing in front of me, Lee's in the corner, Asia's on top, and I'm on the other side. And it's almost like symbolic. You know, she complements the S&C side. She complements what I do. And at the end, anybody who was watching the tournament saw like it was almost like we were at battle. Men was like, you know, getting injured and stuff like that. And my skills were what had to step to the fore during the game, it could only happen the way it happened because of these two ladies, because of the attention to detail, because of the consistency and commitment to their craft, right? So Lee really takes pride in outcomes. You know, she gets somebody on the table, and at the end, she knows what she wants to see at the end. And if she have to change positions, make them sit hurt them, whatever it is, safely, she does it. And at the end, she's assessing and reassessing. And, obviously within reason, because she don't have whole night, right? And they have other men that need to come. Asia, if she wasn't keeping the kinetic movements firing properly, when they get injured, if they tighten another spot, when they get injured, they're now one step weaker, right? Because tightness means weakness. So without the two of them to complement what I did, the results would have been different. So if we had, let's just say there was a hip issue, right? And muscle spasmed and all this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Because of the work Lee was doing, where she was constantly working to make sure the muscles stay supple, because of the work Asia was doing, where she was making sure that the body was working as a unit. Once I was able to release, then the body was more responsive and they were able to go back out and perform. So that's where the team synergy really comes in, even though like at different times, one person might come to the front, in the background, the other two doing something or the other that is contributing indirectly to it. Yeah?
Thank you for that. Asha, just now you actually gave me a little flashback, because when I disappeared from the screen to go for a medal, it reminded me when I was watching one of the interviews they were doing, and they ran off in the middle of the interview and shoot somebody on the field.
Yo, did you realize what had happened?
Always on the go?
Do you realize what had happened? They had played a prank.
Yes, they did. I saw.
And that was actually Coach Simon who did that. He
like
said,
that?
Asha's doing an interview. What if something happens on the field? And Bopara just jumped up and pretended something happened on the field. And that's what the outcome was. And then you hear Riyadh in the stands cackling like the corner lady. I was just appalled. Not impressed.
Yeah, like just now, when they brought the St. Kitts medal for me, I was hoping it was a prank, but I realized it was real life.
Nah, baby.
Lysel, do you think enough respect and appreciation is placed on your respective fields by coaches and athletes?
I honestly think it comes down to knowledge. Once the coaches and the athletes more so in this instance, understand my role, they understand the benefits of massage therapy, they understand what I do, then yes, more respect.
She being modest.
My title.
She being modest. Many times they go to her and don't come to me. She's a boss.
Yeah, but I think it's more so knowledge for the most part. So within the last tournament, yes, respect was given to my title, but generally speaking, I think it just comes down to knowledge. Once you are aware of what the benefits of massage therapy is, yeah.
Asia, same question. Enough respect and appreciation?
I want to say yes, but I will definitely say no. And this is not, I think this is outside of CPL. I will answer.
It's not CPL, no, yeah.
Oh, yeah. In CPL, definitely, yes. I think the guys understood that they had to do strength and conditioning sessions. No if, no buts, no maybe. They understand the importance of warming up, recovery, stuff like that. But the thing is, outside of that, outside of elite athletes, that I don't think people know what I do. They still kind of confuse what I do for what Asha does. So it shows me that, again, what Lee said, like education, they don't know the different titles and the different roles and responsibilities of a strength coach compared to like an athletic trainer or a physio, stuff like that. And they still see it as like a personal training thing where kind of feel good. They come like a feel good thing where it's about, like I said before, improving the athletic ability. So, I mean, in CPL, yes, because I think the guys at a stage where they understand the importance of an SMC coach. But in the broad spectrum, to answer that question, no.
Asia is a personal trainer. I mean, what you're talking about with this SMC thing. We could do that on this show. They know. Because I mean, if Asia wasn't here, I mean, there's a lot during the course of these last year on this show. We have learned a lot about their roles. I have learned a lot. Asha, same. I don't know if you want to add anything on to what these ladies said already about the respect for these support professions for the athletes.
Well, the athletes themselves, I think in general, and CPL for sure, appreciate what we bring. And I think in our setup, they appreciated that it was all women. It wasn't seen at all as a disadvantage or anything. And the athletes themselves recognize the need and how it helps them to stay fit and able to perform. Where I find a lot of times the appreciation sometimes lacks is actually above. The sports medicine is always kind of seen as a they're important kind of thing, and it's like, it's not kind of important. Your product is, your biggest asset is your athlete, and if they're not working and you don't have the best working with them, then your product, which is the game, will be compromised. So I actually find the biggest challenge actually comes from administration, really appreciating the value, and you see it in different ways. Maybe like the pay structure, the budget.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in the next episode.
Yeah.
So we're wrapping up here, ladies. Let's start with, I'll leave Asia for last. Let's go back with Asha. Asha, what do you think what do you hope is achieved from this whole all-female team? Because I know it was I heard a lot about it. The commentators spoke a lot about it. It was pushed a lot. What do you hope is achieved by all of this?
I hope that that there's a greater sense of inclusiveness when it comes to equality in the professions. I don't have a claim to be a feminist, and I think the battle for women to seek equality will need the help of men. So what I hope came out of this experience is the visibility among men for women in these roles, and that women, given the opportunity, can meet any expectation.
And surpass.
You what?
And surpass.
Exactly. And surpass.
Lee, same question.
So for me, what I expect out of this entire thing is basically for more females to come on board, not just for CPL, but I'm talking about in general, where sports is concerned, knowing that it is a male dominant factor. Yes, there are also female professional teams, but for me, you don't see them as, probably have not paid much attention to it, but they don't go as far as, or they're not recognized as much as the men teams. So what I would like to see is a bit more females in the industry, whether it be SNC, whether it be physiotherapy, whether it be massage therapists. And when you all get out here, I encourage you all to just stay focused. Do what you need to do. Stay focused.
Asia, pull down one of them many posts you just have on IG and give us right now. Just pull back one of them. Tell us how you feel about it.
Okay, so I hope to inspire. I hope we inspired and motivated like other females to not be afraid to step into a male-dominated field. I mean, I've seen good male like coaches. I've seen bad male coaches, and same goes for the women. So like, don't be intimidated or be afraid to be the first or the only. Like, that should be something you should take pride in. So I really hope that we inspired other women to get into athletics and know that like we could do our job. Same like what Asha said, we work hard just as men, and like you, Jason, rightfully said, sometimes we might surpass them. And so that's definitely my takeaway from all this, is to kind of just inspire other women to step to the forefront and be like, okay, this is our job. And whether it's male athletes, female athletes, like, it's a job. You have to get the job done at the end of the day. So,
thank you very much, Asia, Joseph, Lyeesel, Sealey, Asha, DeFreitas. I'm hoping to see a all-female West Indies medical team in the future.
No problem. Can I copy this and just tag Dr. Oba on this.
You want this? I mean, first time, and you're just
tag everybody.
Don't worry, we'll tag everybody. We're gonna cut this part. This last part. We're gonna cut it and we'll send it to each of you, and you post it up and
yes, definitely.
I mean,
yes,
results.
I'll tag them. I'll tag West Indies. I'll tag everybody.
everybody.
No, but I mean, you all have really been inspiration. I see Auntie Bev is here. Asia, Auntie Bev, you're
Auntie Bevy.
She said pleasant evening. Stephen Otley just pop on. Auntie Bev say I'm woman power. But thank you for providing inspiration for Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you for supporting SimKits, which is like also a Trinidad and Tobago team.
Wherever Dwayne is, you have to think is a Trini team, man.
Team. No, but I mean, most of us, if TKR didn't win, we wanted SimKits to win. But
for sure.
It's all right.
And we're happy for all the extras that hopefully you all will get. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. And congratulations, ladies.
Yes.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right, so that was Lyeesel Sealey, we had Asha DeFreitas and Asia Joseph. And up next, we have our Lifebuoy segment with Mr. Kervin Jean. Stay tuned. Right, good evening and welcome to this segment we call the Lifebuoy Saving Aquatics, one guest at a time. And on screen, we have Mr. Kervin Jean. Good evening, Mr. Jean.
Good evening, Jason. Good evening, viewers, listeners, I guess.
Right, so this Kervin Jean is the head of the UE Open Campus Sports Academy. I got that kind of right at least?
Yeah.
He's
Open Campus Academy of Sports, same thing.
Right. He's also a PhD candidate at the University of the West Indies for sports policy. And he also served as an administrative officer not an elected officer, administrative officer working in the ASATT office from 2010 to 2012-ish. So, Mr. Jean, so we're here to talk a little bit about governance, a little bit about policy and framework and how that will assist in sport development. So just give us a brief overview of what you would define as governance and why a national governing body should be concerned about governance.
In the simplest terms, Jason, governance is basically the act of governing. It's how you go about executing the day-to-day operations of the organization, the country, the state, or whatever it is that you're in a position to govern. One of the key components of governance is having, one, the governance structure in place, and the support to that, your governing documents. And understanding that an executive or leadership team would not be in place 24/7 to offer guidance overarching guidance to whether it be the other executive members, club members, or what have you. So that way you have governing documents in place to guide individuals so they know what happens. Additionally, those same governing documents would dictate or mandate how the organization is to be run. Right. So for instance, if you look at swimming, you have your constitutions. Your constitutions dictate when AGMs are supposed to be had. what the election process is like and everything else with regards to the sport. Similarly, the executive would be responsible for the oversight of the organization, but those governing documents would give that mandate to the clubs and everybody else so they know and they're aligned to the governance structure. What it means to the organization is that it not only facilitates formality, but it also enables them to have a formal structure and also enables everybody to know what their role is and how they should execute that role. With a proper governance structure, you have seamless operations. Everybody knows what the role of the executive is. Everybody knows what their role is as club members and everything else, and everything aligned to the organizational structure as well as the mandates, the overarching mandates, whether it be via your strategic plan or operational plans. Everybody is aligned to that via that framework.
So is a good way to communicate the document is a good way to communicate the rules and regulations, and so that, I mean, executive come, executive go. I mean, we update as we go along, but it's a guiding framework for us to operate within.
Right, and not just that, your constitution will provide that, but also those are the articles of association and bylaws would then give that extra, how do I put it, those areas that are not covered by your constitution, your bylaws would cover them. Additionally, if you look at your strategic plan, which is your overarching plan, it offers then direction to the clubs and other affiliates so they know exactly how their operations are to be organized to align to the mandates of the organization or the association.
All right. And I know earlier last week, or it was Sunday, sorry, I had an article in The Guardian, and you were talking about sport development. And one of the items listed was a policy and regulatory framework. So how does a policy and regulatory framework assist and aid in the development of a sport?
The way it works is that your policy basically entails your overarching plan, the guidelines for the governance of the organization. So in the context of a national governing body, generally your strategic plan would take the place of your policy. Of course, you would align that plan to the national mandate, which is the national policy on sport. However, that strategic plan is more or less your policy. It dictates what will happen within the organization over the span of 3 to 5 years, whichever the length of that overarching plan. Within that plan, it also articulates what is the vision for the organization for that period of time, what projects you will be facilitating, what your vision, your mission. In fact, it details everything that the organization is going to be doing for that period of time. Within that framework as well, you would identify what the role of the various stakeholders are and how that role will be transacted, not only through the execution of mandates from the executive, but what is required of each and every stakeholder. With that in place, you have a direction. So for instance, if within that 5-year period, you say you're going to be investing in capacity building, you're going to be working on facilities, you're also going to be facilitating developmental programs. Everybody knows there is a system in place and that is what they can align to. So a club now would look at that strategic plan, look at where the direction is, where the vision and mission is of that organization, and align their operations to align to that. So if you're saying, okay, by the year 2023, you're going to have X amount of national coaches, X amount of technical individuals trained, clubs can then know, okay, at this year I have one academic, not an academic, but a technical program. The following year I have X amount of coaching programs, so I can then see which of my coaches can then be entered into those programs, so then I am aligned to the mandate. What it therefore means is that there is a plan. You cannot build a house if you don't have a plan. Now, you may be a skilled builder, and in your mind, you may say, okay, I don't need to write out the plan, I have it in my mind. Nonetheless, there is still a plan. And that is where you start off. That is where policy is important, that overarching plan. Without that, there is no alignment. And to use the local dialect, if you don't have an overarching plan, you are basically spinning top in mud. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that being, you see, sport, the various components of sport are interconnected. And just like the first part of the article, we spoke about having systems in place that facilitate practical sport development. Without an overarching plan that would seek to connect those various components, what you find, you may be placing emphasis on one component to the detriment of others. So for instance, you may say, okay, we're going to have a developmental program for 2022. You have that developmental program. You have about 20 or so administrators that attend. What next? What happens after that?
Correct.
So without that overarching plan that connects all of those components, what you find, you're just basically wasting money. Because if I ask you, okay, you spent, say, 2 million over a course of 3 years, and I ask you what came out of that 2 million, what was the impact on the sport? How far did it take your sport? How would you answer? Because you have no overarching plan, and that is where people make the mistake. They don't understand policy. It starts off with policy, and not just starting off with the policy, sticking to the policy with regards to implementation and executing it properly. And I think that is where our associations need to go, and that is the importance of policy to sport governing bodies as well.
So, Lemma, I know you work in aquatics for a little while. Is there any specific policies you think we should have in place?
I think you'll have the policies. Because I recall when I was with swimming.
No, okay. Assume. All right, let me take that back. Assume zero knowledge. Right? So I take that back. But what policy should an organization like us have in place?
No, well, it's simple. You start off with your constitution. You would have your constitution. That is where you align to the international federations as well as your regional federations. So you align to their mandates, whatever comes from FINA and the regional bodies, you align to that, as well as the various components of the national framework, you align to that. You have your constitution. And by other frameworks I indicate, so for instance, your child protection and other such legislation, you ensure that your constitution is aligned to that. More so, you want to ensure that your constitution is updated. A lot of NGBs haven't touched their constitution since the 70s, or even when they came out, when they were first initiated or recognized, a lot of them haven't done any work on their constitution. So that is a major aspect of that, your constitution. Next, you would have your strategic plan. Your strategic plan would articulate the vision, mission, and what are the goals and objectives of the organization for whatever period of time. Most individuals plan this, they have their strategic period for the length of an electoral cycle. Others seem to have it longer. In most instances, you tend to stay with the electoral cycle because most times when a new administration comes in, the first thing that gets kicked out is the strategic plan to replace by whatever they come in with. So that is one. Out of your strategic plan would flow your operational plans and other such dictates. So, you have a 5-year strategic plan. You're planning to do, say, X, Y, and Z components. So from that strategic plan, you have your operational plans for year 1, year 2, year 3, and they are informed by the components or the initiatives that are included in your strategic plan. So this is just the minimum framework for any national governing body.
So I have a side-ish question to ask you. Right? Because I hear what you're saying, and I mean, it sounds good. And I mentioned this, I asked this before. We have so many qualified persons like yourself, right? And many other people coming out of the university, West Indies and Trinidad and Tobago in sport management. And I made some comments just now that, some organizations haven't made changes for decades to how they're structured, etc. Do you think we are getting the persons in to provide that support to the NGBs? Are the persons who coming out of the universities coming out and giving support to these organizations?
I think yes, but I want to stick up in there. I want to come back to that. But let's go with the yes first and foremost, because I know a number of individuals who I have taught, and everybody tells you the same thing. They have contacted a number of sport administrations wanting to assist. They're volunteering their services, but for some reason, the organizations don't really take them on. Now, some organizations do. They take that help because we understand that we work with volunteers most of the time, and that is needed. So some organizations would love to have persons that have done sports management or even one of the other coaching degrees that the university offers, which is coaching, kinetic, sport leadership, and management. Some do, but for the majority, I don't think we understand how to use those skill sets, to be honest with you. Because I recall at last year's conference, which TTOC puts on, the sports conference, there was a psychologist there, sports psychologist, and she said she contacted a number of organizations in Trinidad and Tobago trying to render assistance, and nobody, it's like she was speaking to mute people because they did not understand. And that is largely so because we haven't transitioned from that volunteer base to a more professional system of sport administration. We still focus on the executive and those little committees that we have to assist, not understanding that we need those support services, skilled individuals, whether it be physiotherapists, whether it be nutritionists, whether it be other sport administrators, that we need those individuals to assist if we truly want to develop our frameworks and our governance centers, that we need those individuals for the support. Notwithstanding, we don't have the money to pay them, right? And that brings me to where I stuck the pin. See, there are opportunities that exist that we don't take advantage of. Take, for instance, we're in Trinidad and Tobago. There is the University of the West Indies. Not only the University of the West Indies, you also have UTT as well, both of which have comprehensive sports programs. You have UE with about 4 or 5 programs, not as BSc programs. We have masters, you have doctorate in sport administration and the like. And I could go through all of them if you like. UTT has the same. And you're churning out hundreds of sport administrators and other sport professionals annually. In most instances, they can't get a job. Most of those individuals find work in other fields simply because we don't know how to use them. Now, we could put up, as the faculty can put up as many forums as possible, but if we're not listening, if we're not ready to take the step and expand beyond our current frameworks, then it's all for naught. The assistance is there, and they can actually take advantage of that by having a relationship with those organizations, whether you have interns on a monthly or biannual basis coming in from the universities to assist with sport administration. That would help them in terms of their research components and everything else. But again, most of the times those individuals go within those organizations, they end up doing administrative tasks simply because there isn't a structure to accommodate them at those levels. And I think that is the key issue we're having with administrations.
So pulling back a little bit to the regulatory framework, right? What are some of these symptoms of a poor policy and regulatory framework? And what kind of effects would it have on like the sports development?
Oh, I think that is simple. If you cannot answer, if I ask you as an executive member, what is the vision and mission of your organization? What are your core objectives? If you cannot answer that, you have a problem. If I ask you, okay, what is your focus for the next 2 or 3 years? If you cannot answer that, you have a problem. More so, if I go down to the technical individuals, if I go to your national teams and I ask you, okay, what is your developmental framework like? What do you have in place? What is your developmental pathway? If you don't have that, then that is a problem as well. But in short, if you have a sport that doesn't seem to be progressing anywhere, your teams aren't making it to any somewhat regional or international competition, you don't have a developmental pathway, you don't have any developmental programs, you don't have any community programs. If your executive are not functional, all of these are signs of poor administration, not just that, but lack of policy direction and also a regulatory framework. Now, where the regulatory framework comes in is if you have your bylaws and your articles of association. So your clubs and everybody know, okay, AGM is X at this date. Elections are supposed to be this date. Election of new committees is supposed to be held on X, Y, and Z date. If that is not happening, then you have an issue. If clubs are supposed to re-register every year, and you know for 2-3 years no club has registered, then of course your regulatory frameworks are a mess. And likewise, if your bylaws are not adhered to, clubs doing what they want, individuals, then that tells you simply that, one, you don't have a proper policy direction and your regulatory framework is not working and it needs work. And I think you don't even, some of those symptoms I've actually articulated, you don't even need that. If you just speak to individuals within a sport and you ask them, okay, what are the major issues that your sport facing? And when they start rattling off things for you, depending on what they say, you can say, okay, from what they're saying there, then it has nothing to do with the sport itself, but it has to do with the administration. There's no policy and there's no regulatory framework. And that is something that is also, it's quite popular, to be honest with you. But we don't look at it. And simply because most persons are not made to account for it.
And well, you basically told me some of the effects on the sports development already. You answered that part as well.
Yeah, and just to add to that, simple. And you probably see it a couple times already. You ever notice that in, say, for instance, we had the conversation earlier. Look at swimming. Trinidad was basically winging everything up to what, 5-10 years back, right?
10.
Right. Where is the team now? Where are the teams now?
Well, we have not won a Kervin since 2009.
Now, if you look at it, you could probably look at, okay, look at the systems that are in place now versus what you had 10 years ago. And that will let you know exactly what is happening. Because if you have that developmental pathway, you have those school programs, and you have community programs, you have your national championships ongoing, then you have those pathways that facilitate talent identification and talent development. If everything was working and that was in place, you would be constantly supporting, or you have a feeder system into your national teams. When that stops, then you have a collapse of national teams. And we've seen that across many sports. So you see a sport one day, they're champions of the world, and come 10 years later, they're at the bottom of the barrel. Simply because we did not plan. There wasn't those developmental pathways, more so that recruitment and athlete development, athlete identification and development to facilitate that progression. And that is where we have the breaks, and that is the issue we're facing. Now, 10 years ago, Trinidad and Tobago did not have a national aquatic stadium now, did they? An aquatic center.
2016.
So, now that you have it, you're supposed to be performing better. And then again, you go back to the developmental programs, and those developmental pathways, are they in existence? And I think this is where some of the issues come up, and that is where we need to address. And that is why policy is important, because in your policy, you could articulate those so persons know exactly where you're going.
Because when I started to read the article, I reached the sports infrastructure, and then I said, oh gosh, what's going on after here?
And that is the thing, you see, because you can't just focus on one particular aspect. Sport is malleable, and all the components are interconnected. If you focus on one particular component and you disregard the others, then in essence, you're doing more harm than good, because you have development in isolation and it's not integrated into the entire framework. So eventually it will collapse. And if one component collapses, chances are a chain reaction will follow. Every single one will fall. You have to have those systems in order, and they need to be interconnected. You cannot have segmentation within a sport development framework. Everything has to be identified, and that is where policy comes in. You articulate the overarching plan, you make the connections within the various components, and then you follow through with that in terms of development. But if you have those breaks and this disconnect, then that means you have silos, systems developing or working in silos, and they're not interconnected. And at the end of the day, they serve no purpose. So you spend a bunch of money in one area, and at the end of the day, I ask you to account for it. You could tell me, oh, we did X, Y, and Z programs. Okay, you did those programs. How did that develop your sport? What happened then? And you can't say anything because there was no integration. You developed the individuals, but you did not reimmerse them into the sport, the framework, to assist in other areas. You did not use them to advance your administration. You did not use them to advance your technical plans. And I think that is the issue we face now. Too many disconnects.
So just reading some of the comments, have some people say, I don't know why people are so afraid of the volunteers, free labor exchange for experience.
Oh, I can answer that. I can answer that one for you. And I can, from my days in ASATT, it goes back to then. Historically, there has always been this divide, or they have always been at loggerheads. That is volunteer staff and paid staff. Understanding that there's this kind of contention, because most people look at it, okay, I'm volunteering, I'm an executive member, I don't get paid, whereas this individual comes in and is being paid. More so, within our sporting frameworks in the region, a lot of people tend to get into those positions for self-advancement. And of course, we tend to have somewhat, we put not boundaries, but we put fences amongst ourselves. So somebody who's educated, somebody who has vision, somebody who has drive, who wants to come and assist, that person is seen as a threat. As in, you'll come in, you'll work with me, and then at the end of the day, you will superimpose yourself on me, then you kick me out. And that is an issue that we face. We either like it or not, but we could talk about the nasty side of sport that we tend to kind of keep on the hush and we don't speak about it. But that is the major issue we face. If you come out of school, you're educated, and the thing you must understand, most of those individuals, well, that has been changing drastically, but most of the individuals who head sporting organizations, they don't really have a sporting background other than playing. In terms of the education background, the experience, and the skill set, a lot of them don't have it. It's just individuals that probably used to play in the sport, they were involved in the sport, they became popular via some kind of mechanism, and they have a good following, so they're elected to the head. There's nothing in there that mandates for you to have either, if you want to be a president, you need X level of experience, you need to have sport administrative degree or something of the sort. So those individuals, of course, they feel threatened by somebody who's coming out who is qualified in certain areas of sport. And that is a major issue. That is why they don't take volunteers. And I think for that to change, we need to educate our people
But I know earlier though, you say how you all put on this conference and that conference on the next conference. People taking the education?
People are taking it. The problem is what you tend to see, you find the same set of people coming over and over again. And again, it's not just about attending the conference. It's what you take away from the conference and how you apply it to your sporting organization. It makes no sense going to a conference just to say, you know what, I went to that conference. And if you ask them, most times you have person going to X, Y, and Z conference. But do you apply what you learned to your organization? And I think that is a major, because one of the things I would also add as well, and we're doing, the Faculty of Sport is doing a course right now, a governance course with America's Netball. So all of the affiliates throughout the region are doing a practical course in governance and leadership. So we touch on the components of strategic planning, communications planning, stakeholder and team management, and other items that basically involve sport administration. When you make it an applied thing, you ask individuals to then, their assignments and other core components of the course would be to focus on their administrations and work with their administrations to help develop whatever they learn within the conference. So I think that is the next way to go now, as opposed to just having the conference, have it in a manner that individuals are forced to take in projects from their associations, work on them, bring them to the table, and illustrate that they have truly understood what we have said or what we have taught at those conferences. So that may be something to consider as well for you.
Is it at these conferences, it's just anybody who could come, or is there a targeted approach to NGBs as well?
This one was actually initiated by America's Netball. They came to the Faculty of Sport. They wanted to develop that program.
So what I meant to ask, sorry, when you all do courses, etc., outside of people coming to you all, do you all attack the NGBs directly as well, the executives?
We do, depending on what forum. So generally for the forums, from the time COVID had started, we had a plethora of forums. So we would send out the information disseminated through the ministries and the various NGBs. The problem is for the higher end courses or programs where persons have to pay for it, that is where we're seeing the issue. So in terms of trying to get assistance for the NGBs, we would normally either ask TTOC, the First Citizen Sports Foundation, or even the ministry then, to partner with us to have those collaborations so that it can be made available to NGBs, because we know financing is an issue. Given the current situation, we know financing is tight, so that hasn't materialized. Up to 2 days ago, we had a meeting with the dean, and what he was saying was that for future forums, what we're going to look for is title sponsors, so that they can then sponsor the events and then make it available to national governing bodies throughout the region for free. So that is something we are looking at. But to be honest with you, what we find, if it is free, persons will attend, as long as they have to pay. And in most instances, when you have to bring in professionals to teach, you have to pay for it. Most persons would not attend, again, understanding financing. So that is more or less the issue we're facing right now.
Financing or value?
I think value is there, because with the faculty, what we tend to do, as opposed to just having a forum.
Sorry. Is it that, do you think that some people don't appreciate the value of it? That's why they don't want to pay for it?
Well, I think that too. It's one thing to say, you know what, I'm going to this either forum, I'm going to this conference because I can learn a lot from it, and I want to apply what I've learned. It's another thing to just go to that just to say, you know what, I attended that forum, and put it on a CV. And that is the problem, because you need to identify, okay, what skill sets am I lacking? What do I need to move my administration or my association forward? And until you get to that point and recognize, okay, these are the skill sets we need, this is what we need to develop, it's going to be all for naught, because you won't understand the value in it.
So when we get into that point where we're wrapping up the segment, any final words to those NGBs about anything that you didn't say before regarding the regulatory framework and the need for having a regulatory and policy framework within the organization?
Again, the importance, I cannot stress on the importance of that at all, because we tend, a lot of the times what we try to do is, a lot of those strategic plans, for instance, we don't develop them to actually implement them. We develop them so that we can submit it to the sport company so we can get funding. And that is where the problem lies. If you're not going to articulate the document and commit to it, then it's pointless. Even though we submit those documents, in fact, if you look at the operations and what we send in the strategic plan, in most times they're different from each other. what the plan is and what we're doing, there's no connection. And I think until we realize for us to truly move forward, we need to articulate a plan as well as the steps in terms of how we're going to achieve what we have in that plan. If you don't do that, then you're just wasting your time because you're just going to be using money and there's no end in sight in terms of what is the clear-cut path for the development or the trajectory for development for your organization. So I would just stress them, as opposed to just doing those documents, your governing documents, your policies, to fulfill a reporting requirement, focus on doing it right. Get your stakeholder input, get consultations with your stakeholders, get everybody involved to articulate a proper vision and mission, identify your objectives, sit together, put together a proper plan, go into your operational framework, articulate your operational plans, and move forward to move your sport forward, if you understand what I'm saying. As opposed to just doing it and living out there, that doesn't serve anybody.
Mr. Kervin Jean, well, that's not your name out. Every time I call him Mr. Jean, he's not Mr. Jean? Sorry, just not
Mr. Jean. Hopefully by the end of next year I'll finish with it, but I don't have time to sit down and finish it at this point.
Chlorine Callaloo, and see you again next week. Thank you again.